It was the kind of day no husband ever expects. Emily, my wife of 23 years, sat me down and told me she was going to start seeing other men. And she was going to start that night. I sat there in the kitchen, holding a glass of monkey shoulder scotch, not knowing what to do with myself. For what felt like 10 minutes, I didn't even take a sip. I just stared into space, feeling numb, like everything around me had frozen. I couldn't see or hear anything, but I felt a deep ache building inside me, a pain I knew no drink could touch. I had heard the rumors before, about men whose wives wanted to date other people. I always thought those were just stories, the kind of thing that happened to other people, to couples who didn't have a strong foundation like Emily and I did. But now, here I was, face to face with a reality I couldn't make sense of. Emily was supposed to be my partner, my rock, the one person I thought would never let me down. How could she even think about this? How could she want to throw everything away? The day had started so ordinary. I came home from work, humming a little tune, feeling good, ready to relax. And there was Emily, sitting at the kitchen table with a glass of red wine, looking calm, almost like she had been waiting for me. Something about her seemed off, but I brushed it aside. I put my briefcase down, poured myself a glass of scotch, and sat down across from her. She was staring at me with that look, like she was about to tell me a secret. I raised my eyebrows and asked, "What's on your mind, Emily?" Her smile faded into something more serious. "Ryan," she began, her voice steady, "do you think I've been a good wife and mother all these years?" The question threw me off guard. Emily didn't usually ask things like that. I could tell she wasn't joking. After a long pause, I said, "Yeah, I'd say you have." She tilted her head, still looking at me intently. "Don't you think I deserve a little recognition for that?" I shifted in my seat, confused about where this was going. "Emily, should I expect a reward for doing what's expected of me as a husband and father? What exactly are you trying to say?" She took a deep breath, her voice calm, almost rehearsed. "Tonight, I want to go out with another man." Her words hit me like a slap to the face. My mind went blank, and my stomach churned. I sat there, frozen, trying to process what she had just said. She stared at me, as if she had already made up her mind and was waiting for my reaction. "Yeah, Ryan," she said again, "I want to go out with another man. After 23 years of being only yours, I think I've earned the right to explore. I'm not looking for love, just a little excitement. I'm 47 now, and I know I won't always be this attractive. I want to see what it feels like to still have options." I was completely stunned, my jaw hanging open, but Emily didn't change her expression. She stood up, walked upstairs, and I heard her getting ready. My mind was spinning. I muttered under my breath, "Damn." When she came back downstairs, she looked stunning, but it made my stomach churn. She was wearing a black dress that hugged her curves and barely reached her mid-thigh. It had a cutout that showed just enough to catch a man's eye. Her makeup was light, but her long blonde hair was pulled back into a high ponytail. She looked beautiful, but now it felt terrifying. "I'm not letting this happen, Emily," I said, standing up and blocking her path. "I don't know what's going on with you, but you're not going out like this. Not while you're still my wife." She looked at me with a twisted smile. "Ryan, you're not going to stop me. You know you're not. You won't divorce me over this. Where else are you going to find someone like me? And if we split, the kids would hate you for breaking up the family. Let me have my fun tonight, and then it'll be just you and me, growing old together." The confidence in her voice made my head spin. She leaned in to kiss me goodbye, but I pulled away. She looked surprised, then hurt, but quickly shifted to a colder expression. "Maybe I'll be back," she said flatly before walking out the door. I stood there, unable to move, watching her leave. My whole world seemed to crumble in that one moment. She didn't even glance back. All I could think about were the memories of Emily, the way her beauty had shaped her life. Even as a girl, she had known how to use her looks to get what she wanted. It was something she had always done effortlessly. I remembered the first time I saw her, laughing with her friends, looking like she belonged in a different world. I was instantly captivated. It took me a while to ask her out, but in high school, we became that couple, the inseparable pair everyone knew. Even then, she had other admirers. Back then, I wasn't the guy she was looking for. I was just a skinny kid, trying to figure out who I was. By senior year, I had grown a little, but I still couldn't match the guys Emily usually wanted. Still, we were together. But now, sitting in that kitchen, I realized just how much of our relationship had been built on her beauty, and how easily she could now take it somewhere else. Emily saw something in me, even though I wasn't as good-looking as she was. I was fit, determined, and according to her, I had proved myself in ways that mattered. As we spent more time together, I found myself falling for the woman behind that beautiful face. Eventually, I bought an engagement ring, but I knew we needed to have a serious conversation first. One evening, over dinner, I placed a small black box on the table and looked her in the eyes. What happened in the past stays in the past, I told her. But moving forward, I want full exclusivity between us. No exceptions. If you can't commit to that, I need to know now. Emily met my gaze, her face serious. She glanced down at the box before saying, I will never betray my husband. Never. I opened the box. For years, I held on to her words. As far as I knew, she'd stayed loyal. She turned down opportunities that could have tempted anyone. She was a perfect 10, no, a 12, and I was probably a 6 at best. I was thankful, thinking she was the one for me. When I told her I loved her, I meant it for life, not just for a few years. But now, looking back, I wondered if she still felt the same way. Every week, she still got attention from men, and sometimes women. Emily knew she was extraordinary, a rare beauty among the merely attractive. For 23 years, she'd been my everything. I used to joke with Emily about how she'd always tell me whenever someone hit on her. She was open about that in the early years, always letting me know when someone gave her unwanted attention. But after a while, I told her it wasn't necessary. I trusted her completely. I just asked that she let me know if anyone didn't take no for an answer so I could step in if things got out of hand. As for me, women rarely approached. My wedding ring acted as a shield. When I met a new woman, I'd always make sure to mention Emily and the kids. It was better to set boundaries from the start. But Emily never seemed to notice how quickly I shut down any flirtation. For years, our marriage felt like something out of a storybook. Then, a new face appeared at Emily's PR firm, Paulina Lopez. Paulina was stunning, like something out of a song. She had thick dark hair, big brown eyes, and a figure that drew attention wherever she went. She worked as Emily's assistant at Superior Solutions, and she wasn't shy about flaunting her looks or her wild stories about extramarital affairs. One afternoon over coffee, Paulina leaned in and asked Emily, "So, you've never strayed? Come on, you seem like the perfect wife. But don't you ever crave a little something on the side?" Emily laughed it off. "I'm curious, sure, but I could never betray Ryan. But lately, I've been feeling insecure. I've noticed that when we go out, the attention I used to get seems to go to younger women." Paulina smiled mischievously. "Let's play a little game. What if Ryan gave you permission? Would that change things?" Emily hesitated, her expression softening. "Well, if I had his blessing, yeah, that would change everything," she admitted with a smile that seemed to suggest she was considering it. Paulina chuckled. "Then maybe you should ask him. Everything worth having is worth asking for." Emily looked uncertain. "Ryan would never go for it," she said, shaking her head. Paulina's eyes sparkled. "Then make him go for it. Tell him. If he loves you enough, he'll understand. Besides, you're not looking for love. You've got that with him. You just want a little fun." I didn't know any of this was going on. That night, I woke up to the sound of a car pulling into the driveway. It was after 3 a.m. I glanced at the nearly empty bottle of Woodford Reserve next to me as Emily walked through the door. She looked rough. Her hair was messy, makeup smudged, and her clothes were rumpled. There was something odd in her expression, almost smug. "Well, good night, huh?" I asked sarcastically, studying her. She rolled her eyes. "You didn't have to wait up," she replied, heading upstairs. "Good night to you too." But as she walked away, I said firmly, "Let's get one thing straight. If this is how it's going to be, I'm done waiting for you." She shot me a glare and kept walking up the stairs. I poured myself another drink and sank into the recliner, flipping on ESPN but barely paying attention. By the time morning came, I had barely slept. As I made breakfast, I heard the shower running upstairs. Normally, Emily would come down in her robe, hair wrapped in a towel. But today, she came down fully dressed and ready for the day, with makeup on. She glanced at me. "Did you leave me anything to eat?" I gestured toward the coffee pot. "I made coffee. You can make the rest yourself." Then I paused, looking at her seriously. "And since we're both here, let's talk." Emily seemed surprised at my tone. She probably expected me to be angry or withdrawn, but I wasn't giving her the satisfaction of a meltdown. "Aren't you curious how last night went?" she asked with slight amusement. I clenched my jaw but kept my voice steady. "No, I don't need to hear about that. What I need to know is what your vision for our marriage looks like from here." She took a deep breath and responded casually, "Ryan, as I said yesterday, I want to explore for a while. I'm not looking for love with anyone else. That's between us. But I do want the thrill of something different. You're incredible, but I crave a little variety. I want to enjoy what's out there while I'm still desirable. Afterward, it'll just be us again, growing old together. I'll be yours fully, but for now, I need this." I stared at her while buttering toast, my hands shaking. She was talking about our future together like it was just another topic over breakfast. 1,000 questions raced through my mind, but only one made it out. "Is this just about variety?" I asked, my voice strained. "Am I not enough for you?" Before she could answer, I pressed on. "So, you're proposing an open marriage then? Back to monogamy after that, and that would go both ways, right? I'd be free to see other people too?" She laughed lightly, clearly amused by the idea of me dating, but she nodded. "Sure, if that's what it takes for you to be on board. But I'd expect it to be strictly physical for you too." I raised my eyebrows, but she didn't seem to catch my meaning. She brightened slightly as she added, "Actually, there's Paulina, my friend from the office. I'm sure she'd be interested. I could set you two up sometime." I felt a twist in my stomach. Part of me was tempted, lustful and reckless, but I wasn't that guy anymore. "Thanks, but no," I said, shaking my head. "That would make me just as much of a cheater as you were last night." Her smile faded, and her expression turned sour. "I'm not a cheater," she hissed. "Well, if you say so," I replied, not backing down. "But that doesn't mean I agree to this." She stared at me, narrowing her eyes. "You'll come around, Ryan. I'm doing this with or without your blessing." After Emily decided to divorce me, her lawyer arranged for marriage counseling, and I reluctantly agreed. When we walked in, I was stunned to find Rosalind Walker as our counselor. She was well known for helping couples reconcile, but she often sided with the wife. I wondered how this session would go. Rosalind didn't waste time. "Let's start with the basics," she said. "Mrs. Brown, did you tell your husband you plan to date other men for the next few years?" Emily shifted, clearly uncomfortable. "Yes," she said quietly. Rosalind's eyes sharpened. "You plan this without considering the impact on your husband?" Emily didn't respond at first, her face darkening. "That's what I want," Emily said finally. "But that doesn't mean I don't care about him." Rosalind's gaze was cold. "If you think this is justified, you're delusional. You should be ashamed." It was harsh, and part of me felt bad for Emily, but I was too hurt to care. In the month that followed, Emily bombarded me with calls and texts, which I mostly ignored. Eventually, she had our daughters reach out. One evening, Mia called. "Dad, do you still love her? Would you take her back if she stopped seeing other men?" The question hit me hard. "She's still seeing other men?" I asked, shaken. The silence confirmed it. Mia didn't call again. As the divorce news spread, I started getting attention from women at work. Even Montserrat, a longtime friend of Emily's, contacted me. "I'd never go after a friend's husband," she said, "but now that you're single, things are different. I'm interested in you." I was caught off guard but flattered. "I'm not officially single yet," I replied. She laughed. "You're such a Boy Scout, Ryan. Could we at least go out when it's settled?" We agreed to go out after the divorce, and I found myself on a date with her a few weeks later. It was awkward at first, but by the end of the night, we shared a kiss. I realized how much I'd been holding back for years. The day my divorce was finalized, I took off my wedding ring. It wasn't as significant as I'd imagined, but it made waves at work. Suddenly, women were flirting with me. My best friend, Robert, laughed when I mentioned it. You were the epitome of a henpecked husband, Ryan. That's why you didn't notice. Over the next couple of months, I went on several dates and even slept with 2 women. Emily heard from our daughters that I was seeing other women, which upset her. Then one Saturday, 2 months after the divorce, my daughters showed up unexpectedly. I'd just spent the night with Kim, a woman I'd met at a wedding. Kim wandered out of my bedroom in one of my shirts, and Emma froze. "Dad, how's things with Mom?" she asked, uncertain. "She's moved on," I replied, hiding my frustration. "And she's entertaining men in our old bed." Kim tried to break the tension. "If she's seeing one new guy a month, that's 20 men since you split." Emma didn't look pleased. Later, Emily confronted Montserrat about dating me, demanding to know why she was doing it. Montserrat replied calmly, "He didn't hurt you. He's a great guy. Why shouldn't I date him?" The truth hit Emily hard. She realized what she had lost. Meanwhile, I was moving on, finding freedom I hadn't known in years. When Emma's wedding came up, Emily suggested we attend without dates to avoid tension. "I'm paying for this wedding, and I'll bring a date," I said. "No more arguments." Emma sighed but agreed. "Just someone closer to your age." I laughed, teasing, "Maybe, but you'll have to get used to seeing Kim and me on the dance floor." The big day finally came, and I took Montserrat to Emma's wedding. We didn't exactly agree on the sage green dress I picked for her, but I wanted her to have something new. After a little back and forth, she finally agreed to wear it. Walking Emma down the aisle was emotional, a mix of pride and bittersweet joy. It hit me that this was the life I had now, and I felt thankful for everything that had brought me to this point. The reception was fun, and we all danced for hours. But there was one moment that felt off. Emily showed up with her date. Honestly, I wasn't bothered by it. Her date acted like a fool, drunk and hitting on other women. When Emma told him to calm down, Emily hurried him out. Later, I ran into Emily by the restrooms. She was upset and confronted Montserrat, accusing her of stealing me. Montserrat didn't flinch. She calmly said, "Ryan and I were already divorced when we started dating," and walked off, not letting Emily ruin Emma's day. A few months later, Mia came over looking uneasy. I could tell something was bothering her, so I asked straight up, "What's going on, Mia? You've been quiet all night." She hesitated, then said, "Dad, sometimes Mom talks about getting back together. She says once she's done dating, she wants you back." She looked unsure of herself as she said it, and I felt a little surprised. I didn't like the thought of it. "Mia, my personal life is none of your business, but no, I haven't been with your mom." "Not like that," I replied, trying to keep calm. "What else is going on?" Mia took a deep breath before saying, "Well, Mom, she has an ST. I overheard her telling a friend she was treated for syphilis. That hit me hard. I didn't say much at first, just told her, 'Thanks for telling me, honey. It's important people get tested.'" A few days later, Vicky called me, worried about the same thing. "If you're wondering," I told her, "I haven't been with Emily. It's her mess, not mine." Months passed, and Emily didn't give up. She convinced herself I'd miss her and want her back, but I knew better. She thought I'd never leave, that she was irreplaceable. When I got a call from her after nearly 2 years, I wasn't surprised, though I wasn't happy either. She said, "I think it's time for us to talk." I wasn't in the mood. "We agreed not to talk until Mia's wedding," I told her. "Since that hasn't happened yet, I'd rather stick to silence." Emily laughed like it was a joke. "Still the same, Ryan. Deep down, you know you want me back." I shook my head. "Still the same, Emily. You think the world revolves around you." I paused. "The past is the past. I don't need to go back to it." She sighed. "Maybe I should have just cheated quietly." "Emily, it was still cheating," I said, firm. "Just because you warned me doesn't make it any less real." I added, "These last few years have shown me that I'm more than just the husband of a beautiful woman. Other women see me, and I'm better off without going back to someone who never respected me." She whispered, "Are you sure about that, Ryan?" I didn't hesitate. "Absolutely." That was it. I hung up and turned to Kim, who was sitting next to me. "Ready for round 2? I asked with a grin. A few years later, Kim married someone else, but I kept my relationships with Montserrat and Vicky. I loved each of them in my own way and never rushed into anything permanent. When Mia got married, both Montserrat and Vicky were with me. Emily showed up alone, and it was clear she wasn't happy about it. She later complained to Mia, but Mia just shrugged. "You had him, and you left him," she said. "Looks like you were wrong." I was happy with how my life had turned out. It wasn't what I expected, but leaving a situation I thought I couldn't leave had led me to something better. Emily, on the other hand, still couldn't find anything lasting, despite all the men she dated. And I think, deep down, she realized that her choices had cost her everything she once had. She let me slip away in her search for more.